There has been a lot of panic in the Crested Gecko community lately. Lily whites are $250 to $300. Cappuccinos are $500. What is going on? The prices have dropped dramatically. In this video, we're going to talk about the status of the community, of the market, and we're going to talk about what you should do to prepare for events like these. So 2023 has been a very slow year for all of us that breed crested geckos and even some of the other reptiles. But I'm here to tell you that, this is not gonna last forever. We saw a really high spike in the crested gecko market and reptiles overall the last 3 years. 2020, 2021, and 2022 were all very good to us. Prices were unreasonably high. I have actually mentioned this before. It was a little bit of an inflated market, and now prices are starting to regulate again. Now the problem is every crested gecko breeder and gecko breeder in general is starting to freak out, and they're starting to drop their prices. So it has caused a market crash because the economy has been a lot slower, for me at least, and I think for a lot of us in the market. It's reflecting in the prices of the geckos, because obviously when there's no demand for the animals, the supply price is gonna go down, and that's what's happened, especially with incomplete dominant mutations like the lily white and the cappuccinos. We saw probably the biggest crash we have ever seen in the crested gecko market with the cappuccinos. They started off selling, I remember when they were like $10,000, $7,000, $8,000. Within 2 years, they quickly became a, $400, $500, $600 animal. And that is, obviously very alarming, but the ball python people saw this coming. They have been through this many times. I I've been in the industry for over 10 years, so I knew that some of these prices were inflated. It's all right. The people who are gonna stick around because they love the animals are gonna go through the ups and the downs, and that's okay. A lot of breeders are getting out right now, because they're panicking. But I'm here to tell you, this is not the best time to sell. You're gonna have to compete with every other breeder. So if you want to sell it around this time, you're gonna have to drop your prices very significantly. There is an adjustment of the market. You're not gonna get the same prices for a cappuccino that you were getting in the beginning of the cappuccino years, obviously. But even high-end animals have had to, the prices have had to come down a bit to compete. If it hurts you so bad to sell an animal for that price, then I would say, hold on to it, grow it out, and by the time this wave or I shouldn't say wave, it's actually like this valley comes back up, your animals are going to be grown and they're going to be worth more. Now, how long is this going to last? Who knows? It really depends on so many factors. The economy, it also depends on the public trust on what these animals are worth. If everybody thinks that a lily white is not worth what it was before, it's not going to be worth that ever again. And honestly, just the supply of them out there is affecting it as well, of course, because lily whites have been around for so many years. They obviously held their value a lot better than cappuccinos have. But nowadays, I know of wholesalers that are wholesaling lily whites to Petco's, PetSmarts, and you can find them at these stores for $350. And that's the cheapest you've ever seen a lily white. Obviously, those animals aren't going to be the highest quality. They're not going to come with lineage. They might not have the best structure or patterns or whatever. But at the end of the day, a lily white's still a lily white. And you could do a lot when you're breeding even a normal lily white to some of your other animals. It's really important to keep in mind how the mutation passes on. For example, these incomplete dominant mutations that you could reproduce in one generation, they're not going to hold their value as much as a recessive mutation like the axanthic that you're going to need at least 2 generations to reproduce. For example, if I breed this gecko to a normal gecko, you're going to get half of them lily whites. If you breed an axanthic to a normal gecko, you're going to get all of them are going to be heterozygous for axanthic, but they're all going to look normal. So you're going to have to breed them again to produce visual axanthics, and that's what I mean. That process is going to add value to that particular morph. What should you do? If you are a crested gecko breeder, you're freaking out about the prices, and you have a bunch of geckos you want to move, what should you do? Well, I have actually found that there's a lot of success at the reptile shows nowadays. Sometimes, you know, at the reptile shows, it's harder to compete because there's a lot of different vendors, but if you have a good animal, you have good prices, you're going to be selling. And that's what we have been doing. We have been ramping up our reptile shows lately, and that has helped move a lot of geckos for us. Now, of course, we're not getting the same prices that we were in 2020 or 2021, but it's okay, you know. This is, you're never gonna be at the peak the whole time. That's why it's peaks and valleys. It goes up and down, and that's just part of the market with any market that you're in. One of my pieces of advice that I have for new breeders is start doing reptile shows if you don't already. Now, if you're strictly an online retailer and you only sell on Morph Market or your website, you're gonna have to make some changes. No longer can you compete with the mid to low end crested geckos on the market because it's gonna be flooded with those, and the price may not be really worth it. I know of people that are wholesaling crested geckos right now for $30 and under. It's gonna be hard to compete with those prices, especially when, you know, everybody and their mother are producing crested geckos now. You're gonna wanna stand out and produce exceptional animals. No longer should you breed for just Axanthics or just lily whites. You want to produce the highest quality Axanthics and lily whites possible. So what do I mean by that? This is some free game right here. Don't just breed two regular heads together and produce an Axanthic phantom like this, which is a nice animal, but there's so much more potential to it. Maybe breed your Axanthics and your visuals to the highest quality normal that you have and make some really, really nice heads. Then start breeding those heads together and make some really high white Axanthics, some full, you know, high-end pinstripe Axanthics, some extreme Harlequin Axanthics, some, you know, full empty back Axanthics. I've seen those in Korea already. And same thing with the lily whites. Breed lily whites to the highest quality animals possible so you get things like this that are gonna stand out, you know? When this animal grows up, it's gonna stand out from a regular $250 to $300 lily white that's gonna be on the market. And that little bit in qualities, that's what's gonna set you apart from every other breeder out there. If you're producing the same stuff that every other breeder out there is producing, then you're gonna be really, whoever has the cheapest price is whoever's gonna sell the animal. And you never wanna be at that position, and you also wanna make sure that you know, take pride in what you're doing and produce the highest quality animals possible. That is another reason why we are starting the Gold Standard Gecko Club, is because we wanna make sure that as more people get into this hobby, as more people get into this breeding business, we want to make sure that the proper breeders, you know, the breeders who are doing everything right and not just breeding for morphs or, you know, because it has a cool color, but you also want to take in consideration the structure of the animal, the overall health, pattern, and color of the animal. Those breeders are going to stand out. And that's what the Gold Standard Gecko Club is going to do. It's going to reward those breeders. I think that is going to be the way of the future, especially for those of us who sell online. Make sure your animals stand out. Don't just breed for a particular mutation like an Axanthic. Another thing you should think about if you are, you know, doing this as a living, or if you're just a hobbyist that wants to make some additional income from your hobby, is diversifying your collection. You know, we breed a lot of different species of reptiles and a lot of different species of New Caledonian geckos, in particular the chahuas, the gargoyle geckos. We breed it all. And one of the reasons that I did that in the very beginning was because I understood that if crested geckos had a bad year, or there was a bad reptile show where crested geckos didn't sell as well, I could rely on some of the other animals that we breed. Gargoyle geckos have become such a huge market for us, and you hear them? And they also have just become, you know, they've taken a life on their own in our business. And to this day, we're probably most known for our gargoyle geckos nowadays, but chahuas as well. You know, you want to make sure that you have animals that you're not just relying on one particular species, and you want to have animals that will also, you know, bring in different groups of people, different types of people, whether it's with other types of geckos or just other species of reptiles in general, snakes, you know, bearded dragons, whatever. You always want to make sure you're a little bit more diversified. That way you don't run the risk of just completely They're gonna bite each other. You don't run the risk of completely crashing once the market crashes. Another thing that is a really good point to make that most people are afraid of right now is buying. Now, guys, when the market's so low like this is the best time to buy. This is the best time where you can make deals with your breeders. Dealers and breeders are already gonna have the lowest price possible because they're trying to compete with everybody else. This is the best time to buy. I know it might be scary because there's some uncertainty with the market, but I promise that you will never see, you know, these dips and the desperate breeders that you see today. We often think that the best time to buy and to get into crested geckos is when everybody's selling, when the prices are so high because there's so much excitement over it. But the reality is that these are the best times to buy crested geckos, gargle geckos, or whatever the market is really low on. Same thing with chahuas, honestly. Chahuas haven't been quite as hot as they once were, but they're such a good animal that you understand that they're gonna come back up eventually. So this is a good time to stock up. And if you're thinking about getting into that new project or that new morph, there's some caveats to that, but if the prices are super low, this might be the perfect time to get in and start, growing your animals and start developing a project, because everybody's gonna wanna just sell. So that's another thing to keep in mind. The best options are always gonna be to go through breeders that do wholesale options if you want to get a larger group of geckos, or even if you want like the highest end geckos possible, talk to those breeders that you might want to get something from. Tell them, make them an offer. It doesn't hurt. The worst they can say is no. So keep your mind open. Don't get scared. There's a lot of panic right now in the market, but I'm telling you, this is something that happens every couple years. It's completely normal. There's no reason to basically give away your animals if you don't have to. Hold on to them a little bit longer if you don't want to lose your most valuable animals. And just remember that what goes up must come down, and the other way around. So with that being said, guys, this ends this video. This guy is not very happy right now, so I got to put him back. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something from it. And if you did, make sure you share and comment, like, all that good stuff. Help the algorithm out. But until next time, guys, we'll see you on the next one.